And so I told this guy that for all of the brands and all of the companies that I've worked with, right? From those making 20K a month to those making 100K a month, even to those making over $800,000 a month, every single one of them, all of them have one thing in common. And that is the fact that so I was recently approached by this guy who's looking to launch a brand, and so he asked me for my advice. So he knows that I have my own clothing brand and I also have an email marketing agency. And so because of that, I get to see behind the scenes of how a lot of really successful brands work. I get to see the guts of like what really makes them go. And so he came to me and asked for my advice. And so I asked him two questions right away. The first question I said, okay, cool. You have your stock, you have your first run. It was a clothing brand, by the way. I said, what would you do if you sold out of your first run? And second question, what happens if you launch and you don't sell out of your first run? And so to the first question, he answered that if he sold out, he would fulfill the orders and then pause because he was also in university and needs to focus on his schoolwork. I said, cool, okay. So what happens if you don't sell out? And he told me that if he doesn't sell out, that he would also take a break because clearly it was a sign that it didn't work out. And so he would try again in maybe like 2 years, maybe. And so when I stopped and compared his perspective to the perspective of literally all of the successful brands that my company has worked with, I realized that there are really only two things that separate him from everybody else. And as a result, ultimately, really only two decisions that you and I need to make in order to create the kind of lives that we want. And newsflash, these decisions are stupidly simple. Number one, don't stop. See, his response told me that he was going to stop regardless of the outcome. Like in the face of success, right? So he had spent time thinking through this brand, conceptualizing it, spending money on designs, spending money on samples, spending money on a bulk order, really cultivating an audience. And if it worked out, he would stop and go focus on something else. And if it didn't work out and it failed, quote unquote, at his first business failure, he would also stop. I hope you're seeing a problem here. Success in any area of life does not happen accidentally. Specifically in creative entrepreneurship or building a business, sometimes the product is just not good or viable, or sometimes the product is good and viable, but it's just not marketed, positioned, presented properly, or sometimes it's just not the right time. In either scenario, it then becomes a matter of tinkering and pulling on different levers to try to make it go. And that can involve any number of things from advertising or lack thereof to branding to positioning to so many things can be involved in trying to figure out what is the right constellation of things to put together to then have this fly off the shelf. But there is no magic bullet to this thing. And so I told this guy that at my email agency, we have systems that we have used to quite literally get brands from $0 to $20,000 a month in about the space of a month, and some even $100,000 a month. But for all of them, every single one of them, they had this one thing in common. They were all in it. They were committed, they were focused, they were dedicated, and they were in it for the long haul. They were ready to keep doing the work no matter how it turned out, whether it initially worked out or not. If it worked, great, they celebrated, but then they were ready to get back to work and repeat and double down on those winning strategies. And if it didn't work, of course they were disappointed, but they didn't stop there. They were ready to go back to the drawing board and try to figure out new creative strategies to try to achieve their goals. Listen, I'm going to make it hurt. And I'm going to make it personal for a lot of you guys watching this for a moment, okay? Chances are, for a lot of you guys watching this video, you are watching way too many how to make $10,000 a month in the next 14-day videos. Here's the reality of the matter. It just doesn't work that way. And that's not what they're going to tell you. The amount of time it'll take you to develop the skills necessary to be able to then make $10,000 a month will more than likely take you more than 30 days. And so if you do get to a point where you do generate $10,000 in a month, chances are it's taking you a lot longer to develop the skills necessary to actually be able to do it. And so the execution might be 30 days, but the preparation is way, way longer. And that's what all these gurus are not going to tell you about. And how do I know this? Because I have done it. Between my music and my clothing brand and my email agency, I have built myself a six-figure business. I have made $10,000 plus a month before. I have done it. And so I can speak confidently. But to bring it home and to make it personal to me, I have built a six-figure business, yes. But have I built a seven-figure business? No, not yet. Have I tried? Definitely. Have I failed and made many mistakes along the way while trying to figure it out? For sure. But am I gonna stop trying to do it? Hell no. What do I look like stopping now that God has brought me this far? Successes, failures, tribulations, ups, downs, and everything in between. What do I look like stopping now? See, one thing connects all success stories: a willingness to keep going, to keep learning, and to keep trying to figure it out. Now, as a Christian, of course, I believe that success ultimately comes from God, but even the Bible speaks of sowing and reaping. It even speaks of being faithful with a little bit as a necessary requirement in order to be blessed with more. It speaks to being diligent with what you have been given, regardless of the outcome. Nobody likes failure, but that's just a part of life. And as cliche as it sounds, I've said it before and I'll say it again. There are no such things as failures if lessons are extracted from those experiences. And so in failure, we learn, we adjust, and we keep going. And in success, guess what? We do the same thing. We learn and we keep going. This is true not just for entrepreneurs, but really for every area of life. And I talked about this in a previous newsletter that I sent to my private community. Join the newsletter if you want to get these gems before everybody else. And I shared with them what I call the success formula as preparation plus positioning plus providence. If you want me to make a video about that, be sure to put that in the comments, right? Success formula, and I'll make a whole video about that. But I spoke to my newsletter about that, saying like success, as we think about it, comes down to kind of like these three basic elements, and they're inescapable. It's preparation, it's positioning, and then it's providence. Now here's the magic of that, okay? Two of those things we handle, one of them we do not. But for those things which we can handle, we better do all that we can to steward them well. And so with all of this in mind, starting something with the intention to not see it all the way through, as was the case with this guy who hit me up for advice, starting something with the intention to not see it all the way through is like the worst, shakiest foundation you can think to start something on. And it is guaranteed to not work out. And I'm sure you can guess what happened with this guy's brand. And so lesson number one, decision number one that you and I need to make to create the kind of lives that we want: decide to not stop. Number two, be like Nike. Now, if you remember, this guy said he was a university. Now, I'm mindful of the fact that this guy is a university and will have schoolwork to do. True. But here's a harsh truth, a harsh reality. And if you're a student watching this, I want you to pay special attention to this. Come in, okay? Life does not get any less busy. Life does not get any less busy. After uni is done, he'll probably have to figure out how to start paying his bills and sustaining himself, which means he will probably have to get a job. Once he starts that job, that now means that 8+ hours of his day are going to be dedicated to this job, with whatever is left over to trying at his dream again. Maybe. Not to mention the fact that the comfort of a steady paycheck typically tends to dull one's kind of like edge to really make something happen. On top of that, the steady paycheck psychologically increases the perceived risk of him starting that business, starting that brand later on. Notice I said perceived risk, not actual risk. But psychologically, it feels like it's a bigger risk because now he's risking this steady bag that he's going to be getting. And I haven't even started to talk about girlfriend and wife and kids and any of those things as life sort of continues to progress. My point is this: starting his brand will never be easier for him than it is today. In fact, I would argue that now, while he is in school, is the best time to try and then try again and then try some more. Try now before the reality of bills and life come crashing in with your full weight of responsibility. So what's your takeaway? Now is your best time to try that thing that you want to try. It may not be starting a business. Maybe it's taking a trip or reaching out to that person or applying for that promotion. Whatever it is, fill in your thing right here. I'm gonna put it somewhere on the screen. Fill in your thing right here. Life moves on with or without you. And with each passing day, the inertia of your indecision grows stronger. It will never be easier than it is now to do that thing. And so, unless your external circumstances so conspire as to make it physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually impossible for you to do that thing, and that is rarely ever the case, in the words of that perennial brand that we all love so much, just do it. And so, to sum it up, there are really only two decisions that you and I need to make to create the kind of lives that we want. Number one, just start. Number two, keep going. It really is that simple. If you don't know who I am, my name is Shope. I'm an Afrofusion recording artist and an entrepreneur. So I make music and I have a couple businesses that thankfully give me the freedom to control my time, control my income, and really build the kind of life that I want for myself and my family. And my entire mission with this YouTube channel is to share the lessons that I'm learning as I make my way through life, both as a creative and as an entrepreneur. So if any of those things sound interesting to you, or if you got any value at all from this video, then please do all of the things. You know what it is. Like, comment, share with a friend, send it to your group chat. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification. And if you want to get these insights ahead of everybody else, and music as well ahead of anybody else, then be sure to join my Artist CEO newsletter. The link for that is in the description. Now check out this playlist for some great music and this playlist for some additional insights. I'll see you next time. Peace. I'll admit it. Yeah, I get it. You been holding me down for a minute.